Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining the next episode of the Emergence Show where we talk about the latest and greatest in emerging tech and immersive experiences to help you succeed in your business with collaborating with brands or building for your own brand. And so today we're talking about the power of Web3. We have a great expert with us that will tell you more real world examples and case studies that she has been implementing and she has seen in the industry to give you guys takeaways to implement in your businesses. Before we get started, I'm going to give you a quick background about myself and then we introduce our amazing guest. I'm Nico Farah. I'm a creative technologist with the focus in spatial computing and AI. I help brands and retailers. I also established a community called the Fashion DAO. We empower creators, especially in the fashion industry and beyond. And we do these shows every week to inform and educate and get everyone onboarded with these new technologies that are moving so fast. And if you want to stay in touch with us, you can definitely sign up for our newsletter. And I will put that in the chat. If you guys also want to send us questions in the comment section, we can definitely see it on every platform that you are. So as we speak, as we go through everything, you guys can send us questions and stay in touch with us as we go through the topics. Otherwise, I would love our guests to introduce themselves. How are you doing, Joe?
Good. Thanks for having me, Nico. Hi, everyone. My name is Ja, and I'm the founder and CEO of a Web3 community activation platform called Playground. A little bit about myself. I come from the global agency side where I was previously a creative. Mostly my clients were on the tech side and also youth culture side. So worked on YouTube at 3 different agencies, was an internal consultant at Facebook in their Menlo Park headquarters. And yeah, my job was to activate creators and brands on social, digital, and emerging platforms. And because of this, I got a lot of gaming projects. So I started to work with um, brands in gaming. There's a Verizon 5G innovation um, lab in New York where their internal studio did a lot of collaborations on teams that I was part of with Dignitas, Riot Games, Niantic, FaZe Clan, to name a few. And also I got to launch a few gaming phones and games through agencies in LA. I'm also passionate about youth culture. So couple of the campaigns I was part of was the global rebrand of Converse by Nike, and was part of a few winning pitches for creator-led brands at the agencies that I was part of. So thank you for having me, and I'm here today to dive mostly into Web3, combining the experience that I have.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being with us. So tell us how you got into Web3 after doing all those Web2 activations and collaborations. What kind of stood out to you in this process? And tell us, how brands should also consider Web3. Kind of how do you see the perspective of Web3 in general?
Right. Well, I had long been activating creators and brands on social platforms for a while, and I had long been thinking that there's better ways to connect people. So, if we look at social media in an industry where it's based on user data and brands kind of pumping trillions of dollars into that business model as we've seen over the past decade. I always thought that there was more media and less social, and that what people really wanted, whether you're an agency or brand or just a human being, that people really wanted community and to connect, and the ways that you do that was through more shared experiences, whether that be online or in real life. Versus like passive doom scrolling, which we've all seen also the effects of. And so I was always really passionate about connecting people. And through these gaming briefs, I saw the future of social. If we took those gaming mechanics of how gamers are, they're community centric,
Yes.
participation centric, and in multiplayer immersive experiences that really like grow deeper bonds. And I really saw that that would be the future of social. So I was basically at this agency inside where I went up to kind of the founder, and I said, we work in social media. I believe the future is community centric, experience centric, and about collaboration and play, and that creators should own their own community and own their own data. And without knowing it, those are really Web3 centric concepts. So I got started on building Playground. And at the same time, in 2020, around the pandemic, when a lot of these communities and experiences went online and became kind of like virtual, and there was a lot of innovation in the experiential space and activation space, that's when Playground got backed by one of the largest gaming blockchain funds in the world, Animoca. And since then, I've been exploring, these topics of digital ownership and social identity and the value that people are bringing to the communities that they're in, and to the platforms that they're activating on. And how brands are definitely still part of this ecosystem, but how they might kind of come in through a new mechanism or through a new platform where they can engage and activate their super fans or their ambassadors or their community, rather than buying data and pushing 15-second banner ads everywhere. And I just thought there had to be a better way. And so that's how Playground was born.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. So you originally didn't even know about Web3, but you had this concept of how we can bring more social aspect to brand activations. And then you started kind of working in this space, and then you found there's an intersection to Web3. So tell us about these challenges that you experienced and the brands experienced. I mean, you kind of alluded to that, which is basically, not having this social components and being dependent on the platforms for the data. What are the challenges you saw, and how did you see Web3 can be a solution for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that brands want to basically they were activating on platforms where it's built for audience engagement, where it's one to many, and you can broadcast basically and have
Yes.
a million followers on Instagram or on these other social channels. But at the end of the day, they don't own that audience. You can't communicate with them directly. You're kind of at the mercy of these algorithms. And you can identify who your super fans are if you're a sports brand, or your ambassadors if you're like a consumer brand. Like, that's a lot of value left on the table from the people that have consistently over the years shown up, come to your events, bought your product, like that there could be thought leaders and different roles and status that community can unlock, different skill sets that community wants to contribute, and moments that make your brand stand out from the connections that can be made amongst the members. So I think that they did not have the tools to own their audience, know who they are, and also identify the super fans. Lastly, everyone wants to grow. And so everyone wants to grow outside their own sphere of influence. So that happens when you get to cross collaborate or grow outside your own ecosystem. So there wasn't that place that to create or collaborate and kind of reach new people. And then lastly, a lot of smaller brands or bigger brands, if they ultimately, want to know the analytics or the user base, they don't have that really granular data of super niche interests and like the super niche subcultures. Because brands always go to where the creators are. So where was that creator home where that these are the members within my community that are also very interested in these other communities. And so to be able to know at that granular level of data, to be able to reach those members directly was something that you couldn't do directly. It was through a very centralized platform.
Interesting. So when you say that they don't know their super fans and ambassadors, I know it's not like intuitive from the social media platforms, but if you look at like who is the most engaging, if you analyze that type of information on your account, they may be able to see that. So can you expand a little bit more on what you mean by identifying the super fans and kind of ambassadors?
Yeah, absolutely. So, even though our platform's focused on cultural communities that brands can activate, there's specific verticals that I'll touch on that have been really energized that I've seen. So one's music, and the other is sports. So let's look at like a sports brand or sports league. There's a lot of IP. There's a lot of value. There's a lot of money being made with ticket sales and also merch. But there's also value left on the table when you don't know who your super fans are.
Yeah.
So when you are, able to activate, let's say your fans, that means it doesn't rely solely on your centralized marketing team to create thousands of watch parties or sports meetups. And those are things that come naturally to um, the people who call themselves organizers within your community, so they can take that on and in service of growing your brand. And so that's the way to decentralize the work, give ambassadors and superfans the tools to kind of grow globally and just tap the skill set and the passion of people who are already in your community. And so they go from passive consumers to, active advocates, that work on behalf of your brand because they love it. And you see that in music as well when um, artists, of course, on their journey of growing, there's a little bit of social credibility when you're the fan that discovers the artist early. You can't prove it, but you always like to say, like, I found them first. But there is value in being able to do that. And so when that artist grows, they would like to, be able to reward those people early on who's, been showing up to all the shows and um, like over time buying all the merch and just showing their support. So when they are big, selling out stadiums, they can identify who those people are and kind of drop rewards directly to that fan. Right now, what we see in Web3 is there's these general blanket airdrops where like the entire community might get specific roles or status or rewards, but it's not really based on the user journey or like what they've done. It's sort of like, oh, I like you, you're my friend, I'll give you some makeup. But it actually, I think, is recurring engagement can be proven over time, tracked and reported, and you can start to use some of these Web3 gaming mechanics to design these deeper experiences and access.
Interesting. So basically, you go deeper into what engagements are users making, your audience is doing, and then reward them accordingly. So tell us about the reward side. Like, let's say if someone is a fan of a brand and does something cool for the brand. What are the ways that brands can reward them? Kind of in a tangible way.
Right. I'll start with like where the industry is at now and then perhaps like where it could go. But I feel that, brands, they usually are a brand because they've built up a legacy equity over time. So for them to experiment, they might do something that's like dipping their toe in the water. And so that's where we saw like brands, they drop like a pass and you're not sure what it unlocks yet, or you drop like a app for attendance to an event. And everyone's kind of at this last cycle wondering what does that turn into. Um, but I think, brands, they can start to gamify um, the different experiences, actions, roles, and status within a community. And then to give rewards that aren't monetary, because I think that when you make it about money, then it takes a lot of joy out of something that people loved. So I think by reward, we mean like, does it turn into value or connections or extra educational resources, extra access to experiences, not just like a reward in terms of tokens or NFTs, right? So I'll take a Web2 example, which is quite old, but I love how you can kind of map it onto where Web3 is today. So there was this video game that Activision launched called Destiny. And one of their ideas for the interactive launch was to import the world of the game into Google Maps, basically into Google Street View. So through Google Street View, before the launch of the game, um, they kind of teased the experience by um, importing and embedding different hotspots within Google Street View. So you could click on characters and get their backstory. You could click and find Easter eggs about and collect like skins or weapons or characters. And as you explore these planets like Earth, Mars, Venus, etc., they were like having these collectible moments, and you could experience the game before it was released, as actually part of this project as a freelancer. But later on, we're seeing now, games like Pokemon Go, like Niantic, they're really great about like not just painting gamification within this video game world, because nobody really wants to be in just this AR VR, headset centric reality. But they're really good at like bringing those digital collectibles or moments and mapping it into real life and bringing basically activating your life, like your real life. So with Niantic, you would collect these digital Pokemon balls. I don't know much about Pokemon. I'm just really great at. Um, and you would have these players that want to collect it meeting up spontaneously and synchronously, like in places like Central Park in the real world. So basically their digital actions were leading to real life community and connections. And so I think if you study like the purely Web2 Planet View and then like sort of this real life digital version, hybrid, which is Niantic, and then now you kind of study where it could go, I think the creativity will lie in like, what are those moments that you can collect? Is it based on what I've done over time, my NFT pass, because everyone right now just has like a PFP NFT pass, does that level up because I've, gone to 5 events, curated these things, bought these things? Like the campaigns that can be designed around actions can be seamlessly leveling up my role and status within that community or world. And that allows me instant also access to the level of experience that soulbound or dynamic connection unlocks.
That's very interesting. Yeah, I mean, even within the fashion DAO, yeah, I have been thinking about how we can really incentivize and reward different actions and contributions, because always, the traditional way of Web3 has been whoever puts the most money usually gets the most votes, and that's not necessarily, the engagement in a term that we're talking about. Yes, it is funding, but it's not necessarily having the skin in the game every day and being in tune and supporting. So I love what you're sharing. So tell us about any real world example that you guys have worked with. What challenge you have solved, and kind of like how this technology and especially the Web3 side has helped.
Great. Yeah. So, well, we're a community activation platform, and we focus a lot on cultural discovery on the front end. So it's like play. You can discover and play in and join all the communities that you're interested in. On the back end, it's ground, which is all of the creator tools to connect, activate, and reward your community. So the spectrum of communities we've worked with has been ranging from Web2 communities that kind of want to completely hide the Web3 layer, all the way to like Web3 savvy, like in the cultural sphere. So, for instance, NFT Paris, they're Web3 native, but they focus on like I would say they're really great at curating the cultural aspect. So last year they wanted to activate the workshops that they were having. So the main conference was ticketed, as most venues do have like a relationship to ticketing. But they know that some workshops were co-created from their community. So if you were a brand sponsor or a speaker or a workshop host, you were contributing your expertise and your time to create these side events and workshops within NFT Paris. And what those hosts got in return or wanted in return was access to the email list of whoever had said they wanted to attend that shop. So we basically on an NFT ticket ticketed all of the workshops, and anyone that was tagged as a sponsor or co-host or speaker, um, that account was tagged from a Playground account. That account also shared the value of basically the attendee list. And so for a lot of these creators, that's lead gen and they get something back. That's just like a very small instance of like co-created experience or co-created physical items or content where like different roles of people made that happen. And whether it's royalty splits or you want to share like that email attendee list, like they get that back. And that's just like the beginning of some value back. And at the highest level, it can turn into like extra NFT or token rewards at the community level, roles and status, or even at the platform level, because they're also earning play points on Playground as they, you know, party in another community, go to workshops in this other community, or attend educational events like in Fashion DAO. So they're earning play. So that's like a Web3 example. This year, uh, there's some questing platforms that have come out, and then there is a lot of rewards infrastructure. They tend to be decoupled, and so we're currently actively working with them to kind of bring it together. Like how can their community member pass gate a place where the members can connect all of the events of Paris, even though the event is over, doesn't mean that there isn't a Web3 community active in Paris right now. It's super lively, right? So how do they create and activate the ecosystem even after the event? And then kind of bring what's currently on their questing platform and the rewards platform into a single place. So that's one example. Another example is this community Unrevealed. They activate at Art Basel every year, and they're extremely like more Web2 audience, but they want to bring them into Web3. So um, with an email sign up or one-click Google sign in, we got everyone wallets, like over 2,000 people that attended their Art Basel official event in December. And used everything from like our POAP. We launched the first NFT ticket on Sui mainnet. And now it's about kind of growing the community between events, like I said. So now they are, they're podcast hosts. They also they have a video education portal that they're like uploading to Playground so that you can reward listeners or viewers of basically this education community. Lastly, I'll touch on like a few other ones, like partners like Avalanche, who they have an amazing artist program called Avasance, where their artists and residents record educational videos. So Avasance can actually track if you've completed their educational courses inside their portal Playground, and they'll be able to drop AVAX tokens to the people that have engaged and participated in the program. So where the activation comes in is that if there are artists within the wider community that they haven't nominated as an ambassador, they can actually incentivize other artists to create videos. So basically like crowdsource people to and be ambassadors of Avasance and create these artist videos, tag it to their video portal. And if it's accepted, now they've just expanded their network of thought leaders that are content creators as well. And we're kind of like playing with this same model with a couple of other partners. And in the world of sports, like there's plenty of kind of like sports communities that manage their members through a Telegram or Discord channel or a newsletter, but they're realizing that event organizing is super hard, and actually they can just incentivize like people within the community that, hey, if you're hosting a watch party or you're hosting like a sports meetup, the centralized team doesn't do it. If other people do it, then they slowly earn roles and status as like, let's say, an organizer or a curator or a moderator within the sports community. And now you can have global chapters all over the world through tokenomics or through rewards, through activating community, rather than having to hire everyone. You just like have the community contribute.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing all of these great examples. So let's dive deeper into different elements that you mentioned. So tell us about the benefits of like NFT ticketing. So brands are used to the Eventbrite or Facebook events and stuff like that. So what are the benefits of this NFT ticketing from the user perspective and also from the brand perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's one that's like on the utility and functionality side that'll bucket those use cases. And then there's another that's on the storytelling and creative side. So on the utility side, when things are minted on the chain, there's only a certain number of tickets, and you can verify it. Then obviously, use case that's great for ticketing when it can be scams. Also, ways to fractionalize NFTs. So let's look at festivals, for instance. If there's a 3-day pass, but you really only want to go to one of those days, you can fractionalize an NFT ticket so that person owns the ticket for day one, but then you might want to sell the pass for day 2 and 3. How do you transfer that very easily? Right now, you can't. So there's use cases there. Um, there's also the ticket swap idea. So, how many times have you bought a ticket and last minute you don't want to go, or vice versa? It's last minute and you really wish like someone would just sell it to you, or you've seen your friends buy extra so that they could do that. So this idea of NFT swapping is already out there in trading and DeFi, but like when you want to swap away your ticket, it makes it really seamless and quick. There's many others, but on the storytelling side, I think is where it gets also very interesting, is that the ticket right now is a source of memories. And when you save like a wristband or ticket from a concert you went to that has value, like personal value to you, and you like have it in a memory box. So even if you let's say um, over time, and that's just like a physical like paper ticket. But if over time, let's say the ticket was a dynamic NFT, like how many times have you? I personally don't listen to Vish, but that's like artist community where anytime you meet a Fish fan, they've at least gone to 20 concerts of his. It's ridiculous. So what if over time it can tell you've gone to 20, 30, 50 Fish concerts? Like that ticket can actually be dynamic, and it changes over time to get you deeper and deeper access. So I think there's a lot of storytelling that can happen there and gamification. I also think the metadata within a ticket is really interesting. Like people after an event, they often have photos or videos to share of the experience, and it kind of keeps that community together with like a shared moment. So I think if there's ways to display the metadata in really beautiful and creative ways, that it's like when you revisit the ticket, you almost like relive that moment in time because it comes to life through these kind of like modals or like interactive formats, then it makes like a really interesting piece of art or interactive experience like brought to life through the ticket. Lastly, I'll just say, like, since we're talking about, minting moments, yeah, in sports or in other historical moments, you can see where if you had that ticket and you're proving you were part of some moment, like whatever IP or value that was created from that shared historical moment could technically be traced back and be redistributed through your actions, which is captured by this ticket.
Amazing. That's really cool. We have a question from Chris. Let me put that on the screen. Do you all have any plans to make NFT tickets available to buy food and drinks or merchandise or get discounts because you're a holder of the NFC?
Yeah.
I think, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I think that's like a great question. So, besides gamification and deeper access, and also storytelling and the utility that I've touched on, I think it can also be used to unlock ecosystems of rewards. So we're working with actually alcohol brands. This is just one of many kind of drinks brands, but drinks brands tend to sponsor events.
Yes.
And also alcohol brands have like a decline in sales, and they want to reach new audiences, right? And so they're an example of a category of advertiser that isn't just trying to sell some ad space. They usually do sponsor a community's experience. And so imagine an NFT ticket that can be redeemed for a free drink. And this is something that is actually going to happen in a few weeks at NFT New York, at the Avalanche Creator House. So I'll just like plug them really quick because they're our partner. But like they're holding like these creator events around these cultural NFT conferences, and we'll start with a POAP where you show the playground POAP. And the playground POAP, can it unlock one-on-ones with the Avalanche team for mentorship? Can it unlock free drinks through this other Web3 partner brand that we have? Can it unlock travel rewards so that you can fly to the next event and play some more with the people that you've met, in this wonderful community? So I want to say that like alcohol brands, both indie and large, like the largest you can think of, are exploring this. Diageo actually just had launched an accelerator program for basically for Web3 loyalty, and how to enjoy from home. And they'll have different cohorts on how to bring those drinks brands to life. So yeah, that's just one example. And I see several kind of Web3 startups in the food and beverage space. I also see a lot of these cards, like financial institutions and their credit cards launching Web3 programs. If you look at Mastercard and Visa, for example, and it's because they usually member. Well, that's usually because they have large amounts of like customer data and what they're doing and spending on, but also because they have large networks to food, dining, and experiences and travel. And I also see that in real estate with like a hotel, and they're really plugged into like food and dining and experiences. They're all looking for ways to add value, because when a building can create community, a thriving community, the value of the building goes up and the value of the neighborhood goes up, stuff like that. So yeah, I think everyone just wants a good experience. So food and dining definitely is very interesting.
Awesome. Thank you for the question, Chris. I think by NFC, he meant also NFT. Because I don't know if when you consume the food or drink, what do you do with that NFC? Like that's needs to become digital, and that's where the NFT comes in. But thank you for the question again, and that was a great explanation. So you mentioned tokenomics. A lot of brands may not be familiar with a lot of these, terms and kind of like how we use it in Web3. What are the areas that brands actually need to know about this concept of tokenomics and the elements of Web3 that we can actually use in this context?
Oh, I think it just means shared value. And so, if I look at the ways that brands operate, they are working a lot with creators and influencers. They're doing collaborations and partnerships a lot. And so I think it's recognizing that yes, you have brand guidelines, and absolutely most brands stick to them as much as possible. But there is a little bit of area where you bring in the community along for the ride to make them feel like they're co-creating with each other, to help themselves grow. And then maybe you do a direct collab as a brand and you're giving them this big platform. So I think tokenomics just means that like whoever's involved in the value creation, that upfront, it's really clear like that they might share what part of the value created, and that you can reward it instantly. So it's in a contract. So it's like a new version of a contract through the smart contract system. And like I think since you're obviously head of Fashion DAO, this is a very interesting use case for fashion brands. Like if you allow people to start creating custom designs, and that might be on their own, but if you actually accept that as part of something you want to co-create and collaborate with, and then there are shared rewards there. There's another emerging kind of media brand that's community media, and they're starting with an NFT zine. And whenever someone writes an article or contributes to the zine, they get they're not just tagged as a contributor, or have a lot of creatives just like work for the creative credit they get. So you're like, you're credited as the author or something, but they're actually start to have a stake in what this media brand could become. So even podcast, like I think by saying you're the top emerging tech show, and like all these amazing people contribute either by being speakers, or they're like, I I'm not a tech thought leader, but I'm a designer and I want to create merch for your, emerging brand. Or I'm amazing at social media. I want to like promote the heck out of this podcast. Or I'm, someone who's really, got whatever skill they have and they want to do. I think over time, unlocking all the skill sets of the listeners or potential listeners that could be out there in their own different way, you can grow a lot faster as a community. And then by the time your show gets bought by like an iHeartRadio, what does that look like? So I've talked to a lot of creators where, they shop their show to like a Netflix, or if it's a podcast to, like a Spotify or something, they give away like 30% or more, 50% in some cases to that platform, because there's that cold start problem where you need to like grow and have funds, but you can also just like rely and grow from and build value from the community. And by the time you decide you want to do that or you don't need to, that value is given back to the people that were like part of it from the beginning. So tokenomics is a fancy way of saying like, yeah, sharing value. I have noticed that that's a really financial and mathematical terminology, and that basically Web3 unlocks the most power for creators because they're the ones that traditionally don't have language to talk to like they don't speak tech, or they don't speak the language of finance to get their ideas funded. It doesn't mean their ideas aren't actually the most valuable thing that's usually like taken advantage of. So creators usually they tokenomics might not be something easy to digest for them, but they do know how to speak in the language of like freelancers. A lot of freelancers are creators. They know what like a day rate is, they know their value is, they know how to advocate for that. So it might just be like, hey, what might be a day rate? Will you accept this in tokens? And I'll pay you in like this community's tokens that's, your day rate, and it's like real money. Like you start to just say like, hey, your work is valuable and I would like contribute back. And if this token goes up, then that means what I'm giving you is also even more valuable. So I think they sometimes just needs to be framed in a different way.
Awesome. That sounds great. That's why I'm asking you to explain these terms, because I think the Web3 tech developer community calls this differently and uses it in a different way. So I really love how you're explaining it in a simple language. So you mentioned the smart contract. Can you also explain that in that simple language that brands and creators can, understand how they can use it, and how is it different from the traditional contracts they're used to?
Yeah. So I'm sure some creators are out there listening, or also on the brand side, the ones that have to execute contracts with entertainment IP or partners or creators that they work with for a campaign. And you can think of it like, upfront terms and instant payment, and basically it's immutable. So let's say you're doing an activation and it's a festival and you want to, you know, uh, you need to sell tickets. And sometimes the tickets can be pre-sold to get that funding, and sometimes you need some work up front to get the festival up and going. So you can actually say each ticket sale as it comes in, percentage goes to the producer, percentage goes to the artist, percentage goes to the venue, percentage goes to like organizer. So you're actually like, as each ticket goes in, it's like it's transacting and it's splitting the volume, versus like you might actually wait months sometimes as a freelancer and like have to like chase down the employer to get paid, or so you kind of like see up front, hey, it's like new ways of relating and negotiating when you're working on something. And a lot of these often are co-creative, and you're not full-time. So it's not like a very easy, like once a year contract negotiation. It's like very fluid. So I think NFTs are really great for that.
Very cool. That's a really good point. Yes, I mean, that is always a challenge to recognize and then pay the rewards that they deserve. And so let's talk about gamification a little bit more. What has Web3 introduced to us that didn't exist before? And how do you explain gamification and ideas? Because a lot of marketers, again, they just got to used to social media and how to activate there properly. And now we're asking them to go level up and try new tools. So tell us about gamification and tell us how you onboard marketers into something that is totally new and different.
Yeah. So if you think about gamification, it's actually just that recognizing that when you are a brand or a creator and you're building an audience, it's like a very faceless blanket statement. I have an audience. I know how many followers, likes, and clicks and follows, but there's no separation of what kind and how engaged and what their interests are. So if you know the composition of your community, like these people are builders, these people are really good at content creation. These people are great at promotion. They don't make anything, they're just an influencer. And if they reshare it, that's like promoter. Then there's like curators, they're just tastemakers and people follow them because they're great at curating. And then there's like the investors, right? And then there's the brands that sponsor and collaborate. So you can actually see through actions because of other things they've done on Playground or within other platforms. Through their actions, you can start to see these actions means I might give this entire group of people a creator badge and this entire other creative people, a group of people, a builder badge and another type of badge that's like moderator, right? By being able to track actions and then design basically characters, roles, status, like things that are in gaming to create these collectible moments or social rewards. Not only do the people get some sort of identifier so that they can identify each other and like connect with each other, but then you can start to create campaigns where like if you have this specific badge, we want to create this type of experience for you or connect you to this type of resource. And I think, every community has roles like that. So if you compare it to like a party, yeah, in it coming to life, there's the person that organizes it, there's the person that is really good at getting it started, there's a person that brings a drink, there's a person that's like calculating the tab at the end and, or going around with, giving favors and stuff. So everyone has different roles. It's all valuable and you get to design like the different players that will have a big role in your community.
Awesome. So basically, better understanding your audience, and then based on who they are, what they like, and what they activate with, then you engage them properly, reward them properly, and personalize. That's basically the name of the game. Very cool.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, you can also incentivize deeper journeys. So like right now, like a POAP, it's kind of like digital stamps and you get it from coming to an event. But what you're seeing also is the festivalization of brands or like narratives through these adventure journeys or quests. So like what Starbucks did with Starbucks Odyssey or these other brands where kind of like the collect them all mentality, but you kind of like get to bring the ethos and the values of the brand through life, not by showing a film of people having a good time and belonging to that specific community, but they actually can live it because you can then start to almost be like a game designer, like map what are the kinds of experiences that I want to take them through so they're actually like going through that escape room or whatever kind of like journified experience and bring that to life. And now they don't have to consume and watch an ad that this is the life that you want, but you're helping them live it. And on the way of living it, they'll naturally meet other people that love your brand and like other community members on the same journey or having the same experience. And those are like really lasting impressions. Yeah, that goes way beyond like, KPIs that you're looking at.
That is really cool. Yeah, I mean, definitely there's so much that needs to be done with the physical events to bring them into this space. So tell us about the collaboration part. I think what I loved about what you guys are doing is also facilitating some collaboration, co-creation partnerships that, again, it has been around with Web2 and Web1 too, but it really amplified and accelerated with Web3. So tell us, what are the ways that you're using these technologies to kind of facilitate all of this?
Yeah. So whenever they're currently what we see with brands is that they really want to white label a lot of solutions, and that's because they want to gatekeep their own brand, which is really understandable. But there's always a place where you'll collaborate outside your own community. So I'll go back to like alcohol brands. If you were a community and white labeled a community for an alcohol brand, like what is that community going to do? They're going to be a community of alcoholics or something. Like the alcohol brand always collaborates with cultural creators, like, with the festivals, with the other, artists and musicians. So if when they collaborate outside of their own ecosystem, it can't be a white label. So there has to be basically a central like discovery hub where the different communities can co-create, collaborate, and play together. So normally it works best when the communities are the same size, because then they can like grow together and it's like a mutual exchange of values. It's kind of like uneven, right? If like a really small artist and like a really huge brand, like how can you like calculate that? But there's a ground for growing together with similar sized communities, and eventually when you're big enough, then the brands can like collaborate with you. And when that happens, yeah, we're building the tools so that like you can get matched to other communities that have the same values, whose members are like performing the same actions that you value. And so if a brand says they care about sustainability, we can actually find the creator whose members are actually not just saying they're into that kind of social impact, but they're actually going to beach cleanups, or they're organizing and moderating these kinds of activations. Then you get to kind of talk to the people that are doing and not just saying. So the types of co-creation tools are activations from events, podcasts, videos, merch, you name it. So what we consider that brings a community together is what people read, watch, listen, learn, attend. Those are all the different types of actions you can do. So for each different type of media content, you're allowed to tag collaborators, which are like the people that have co-hosted or contributed to the project. And so when that drop makes money, anytime that there's like a membership sale, an NFT ticket sale, or like just a general purchase, you can actually give everyone tagged that's co-created that with you, and split the royalties. Playground is sort of like the home where this co-creation happens, and there's other companies that are building like AI collaboration tools that are starting to want to plug in, because all this infrastructure needs a home to plug into. And so in a way, we're also a playground for the builders of the space.
Awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, so you talked about how brands are kind of trying to gatekeep because the traditional Web2 platforms were not sharing as much. So, what is this new type of business model that you are incorporating where you are still sharing the emails, like you said, or wallets with the brands or other collaborators on your platform, but you still bring them back to your platform? Because I think that's why social media has been generally afraid of sharing too much, because then they would think that the brands are going to take their audience somewhere else. So how are you solving for that?
Yeah, I mean, everyone in this space is talking about like digital ownership, digital property rights, and they don't understand that their digital identity is actually the most valuable thing that they're just like the people are selling off for them. So a lot of these Web3 concepts is about ownership and control and choice. And so we just basically have to do this right from the beginning. Like these existing social media platforms, they didn't bake in those values intentionally from day one. Whereas Playgrounds, like every creator owns their own community and they own their own data, and like every user the same. And you should be able to choose, if you should choose how it's used. And so yeah, we basically have built it that way where everything's like opt-in. But I think there is no choice when it comes to other platforms, and all that value is captured by the platform.
Yeah, I think what I'm learning from what your approach is, basically, instead of forcing people to stick with you, you are creating such a high value solution that then they can choose to come back. And I think, an analogy can be like, you can get married and have those papers signed, but there's no necessarily commitment if you don't want to come back to this relationship. Similarly, we can be in a strong relationship without the marriage documents, right? So it really depends on how your value offering to your audience, to your partners, and if they truly see value in coming back, they will come back. You don't have to hide the information from them. And so that's very beautiful how you're doing it. Cool. We're getting almost to the end of the show. I would love to hear any kind of like future predictions that you have, and kind of how the future of Playground is gonna look, and yeah, any takeaways you would like to share with our audience.
Yeah, sure. Well, we went through the era of a lot of infrastructure being built, and that infrastructure would go directly to the creator or the community, like build on us. And they're like, we just focus on making a great experience or building a good community, like what we do good. Like they're not going to build the missing layer, which was like a DApp layer, you know. So there was like an era of of infrastructure that we saw. Mint marketplaces, plenty of mint marketplaces, but that was kind of like PFPs where it's like a one-off mint, and then everyone's looking for recurring engagement. That's community engagement, and they're looking for utility. So that's like up to the community, right? So, but I think in a bear market, everyone's kind of looking at brands like they have so much sway, and can like validate the industry. So a lot of people are going directly to the brands. So a lot of brand loyalty and rewards platforms were built. I think that's where we were until recently, and I really think we are entering the era of Web3 social, because brands will always go to where creators are, and people will always go to where culture and creators are right now. So I think if so, the future of Playground is we want to be literally the place where you feel like you can just point at it like something where it's like a thriving community. There's an economy there. It's tokenized, and we want to activate it and just kind of prove all of the the points of what we usually talk about, but we want to make it real on Playground. I think where we are now is also talking about like modularity and composability of dApps, because now more and more dApps are being ready. And so us as a social network, we are very much like, hey, we keep everyone in this playground and this place to discover and co-create and grow and reward. But we have also seen, like these modular conversations where you can start to plug in aspects of Playground and embed into it. Powering your website could be powered by Playground, so that no matter if your community engages and comes through the website or through the community, it's being managed by the same backend. And so going back to what we were saying before, if it's modular, you're like, well, how do things stay connected or tied to Playground? And I think where we are now also is we are seeing a lot of social ID infrastructure. So it's usually tied to the wallet, and whether you call it SSD ID or what's like the ID. I think that is a really big topic in Web3 right now, because that's technically what locks you to a certain infrastructure. Right now, like I said, every creator owns their own data on Playground, and so you could technically download all the wallet addresses and the email addresses and take it off Playground if you wanted to, because because now you own your own community versus you're actually locked in with these centralized platforms. Because as long as they have that wallet ID, their ID can be like plugged into many different types of apps, professional networking, social networking, dating. Like their ID can follow to different platforms. So I think we will start to see that. So Playground will focus on building the culture, building the tools that communities are asking for, and then also starting to own certain parts of the infrastructure where we feel like is that only Playground can own.
That's beautiful. Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome. Is there any kind of links you want to share with us? Any type of way our audience can support you and your amazing efforts?
Thank you. Yeah, well, we're live on the web app and we're launching our mobile app soon. So you can go to playgroundapp.com and create a community if you're an organizer out there. And I mean, we're working with amazing creators that I mentioned, also with people like you, Nico. So I can also tease that, I'm really excited to not just talk about these concepts, but like have people experience them and show them and do them. So we're working on, how we can actually drop a reward to all the listeners of this Playground podcast, but for you to like let down. So, and then also for supporting amazing founders like Nico and across all her various projects and ecosystems, like how over time it can that you're following that journey and like experiencing the topics that we've talked about today. So look out for a Playground activation to the listeners of the Emergence Show.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So just to summarize, we talked about lots of ways that brands can use these concepts, and you don't have to be an expert savvy in Web3 to do this. A lot of concepts have already been done in gaming and even advertising for so long, but now we're just giving the infrastructure a new look and a new, more equitable way of compensation and rewards for everyone, for creators, for audience, and even for the brands. And so it's very beautiful, and we can all collaborate together and create more magical experiences that are memorable, and we can come back to over and over again. Thank you so much, y'all. I really appreciate it. I learned a lot, and I'm sure our audience enjoyed. Thank you, Chris, and others for listening and contributing. And next week I will be at the Game Development Conference here in San Francisco. And then we'll probably have a pause. And then following week, I will give you guys all the updates and latest and greatest what's happening in this gaming world, which we all are benefiting from a lot of learnings that they created over the years. Thank you so much, everyone. I will see you guys next couple weeks. And thank you again, Ja. I appreciate you, and have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Nico. Bye.